Welcome to my channel. My name is John. This is JC Rock and Metal Reviews. I have another end of the year list. This is going to be the best thrash metal albums of 2020. I tried to whittle it down to a 5, but I got 6. I know the title says top 5, but that's because of the YouTube algorithm and search engines and all that stuff. But these are some classic old school bands and 2 newer bands, which I will talk about in a few minutes. So with that being said, let me get right into the list. At number 6, I have ANIHILATOR with BALLISTIC, SADISTIC. They're a Canadian thrash band, the highest selling Canadian thrash band, selling more than 3 million albums worldwide. Now, most of their sales come from outside of Canada, but they've been around a long time. They have a vast discography. They're also considered one of the big 4 of Canadian thrash, along with Sacrifice, Voivod, and Razor. BALLISTIC SADISTIC is their 17th studio album, released January 24, 2020. The album opens with Armed to the Teeth. It's a mid-tempo classic thrash metal song. Now, if I had to compare the band, I would consider them more closer to like Megadeth. They have like that technical sound. I like the vocals. Another track is Psycho Ward. They released this one as a single. I like this one a lot. It has a lot of like punk attitude. Coming in at number 5 is Havoc 5. Now, Havoc is part of the new wave of American thrash metal. They formed in 2004. The band sounds like those early old school thrash bands like Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer. The album Roman numeral V5 is their 5th album. And the opening track, Post-Truth Era, it has this like And Justice for All feel. It has like a slow building intro. You hear the early Metallica influence. The vocals are brutal, and I really like the vocals on this too, because you can understand what they're saying. The lyrical content is about social issues. They're talking about current events, things like that. The track Betrayed by Technology has this like start-stop riff. This was pretty cool. There's a cool bass line, cool breakdown with chugging guitars. I definitely recommend this album if you're a fan of early Metallica and other thrash bands from that era. At number 4, I have WARBRINGER with Weapons of Tomorrow. So they're a thrash band from the new wave of the American thrash metal scene, formed in 2004 in California. It's their 6th studio album. Now, this album got a lot of praise from the other metal review channels that I've seen. They listed it on their top 20 lists. This band is a little more reminiscent of like the more extreme side of thrash, like Slayer or Creator. The album includes some darker and slower tracks. There's a 7-minute and 9-second track, Defiance of Fate. It's kind of like more reminiscent of like an atmospheric black metal song, and it still has it still has those heavy, crunchy riffs. So I definitely recommend this album if you're a fan of the classic thrash, but like the darker, heavier, more extreme side of that. At number 3 is Mr. Bungle with The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny demo. So Mr. Bungle is a band that's really hard to categorize. They can be heavy metal, avant-garde, jazz, ska, disco, funk, and a bunch of other stuff. It's led by Mike Patton. We know him from Faith No More. He's a very versatile vocalist, and he really shows off his ability, to deliver thrash metal. This was released on October 30th, 2020. It's a re-recording of a demo tape that the band was going to release in like 1986. That's back then. It's the first album to feature former Slayer drummer Dave Lombardo and Anthrax guitarist Scott Ian. They cover a song called Hypocrites and includes the Spanish version of Speak English or Die called Habla Español o Muere. And they had like the thrash version of the Cucaracha. And one of the singles they released is called Raping Your Mind. The classic thrash riff has a punk hardcore influence. This band sounds a little bit more on the side of like Anthrax, that type of like punky, thrashy attitude. It's a perfect mosh pit song. And this is a really great release coming from a non-thrash metal band. Coming in at number 2 is SODOM Genesis X1X, which is 16 if I remember correctly. This is a German band, part of the German Big Four, along with Creator Tankard and Destruction. I will link my full review of this album over there somewhere at the end of the video. They're thrash, old school metal sound. Sometimes they go into like death metal territory. The track Sodom and Gomorrah, it's like super heavy thrash. The title track, it's one of the longest songs on the record. It's like a little over 7 minutes. It's a little slower. It's more of that like slower, like Slayer songs from like the late 80s. And this is probably one of their best albums. And at number 1, I have Testament with Titans of Creation. This is the 13th studio album by the American thrash band, released April 3rd, 2020. A lot of other review channels have mentioned this in their top 20. Many say it's not one of their best, but I gave it a listen, and I haven't heard it in probably a few months. But upon listening to it, I really enjoyed it. It might be because I've been with this band a long time. It's one of those CDs I bought when I was like just first getting into metal. The songs sound really good. There's a lot of like textures, there's a lot of variety. It's not all like super fast like thrash songs. Chuck Billy sounds just as good as he did in 1987. It's a fairly long album. It's almost an hour long, but I didn't feel the length. I mean, it was enjoyable. I enjoyed listening to it. The first couple tracks are really good. Children of the Next Level, it's excellent old school thrash. World War III, super heavy classic song. Dreamer Deceiver. This one is heavy, it's melodic, it's catchy. I'd probably rank this like somewhere in mid-range or upper mid-range. That's all for my thrash metal. Comment below on your picks. What are your favorite thrash metal albums of 2020? I have some new lists coming up next. If you're new to the channel, I do rock and metal reviews. I upload 6 or 7 times a week. Please like, comment, subscribe. It helps out the channel. And let me close out. I will see you soon. My other videos should be linked by now. So, see you soon.